I just want to start the video off by saying rest in peace, Kazuki Takahashi. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was a big pillar of my childhood. Yu-Gi-Oh! Ever since releasing in 1999, the game has offered millions of people enjoyment in its strategic depth and gameplay, but in over 20 years of gameplay, there has been more than enough wacky instances of people taking things too far. In this video, we're going to be going over a few of those. I'm Emmy the Desert Hare, and I hope you enjoy this video. I'm going to start right out the gate with the cards in the thumbnail, Yujo Friendship and Unity. There's been a lot of misinformation about these cards that I wanted to clear up. Yujo Friendship's effect states that you must offer a handshake to your opponent, and if you do, both your life points become half of their combined total. Unity states that you select one of your own monsters, and the defense points of that monster become equal to the combined defense of all your other monsters on your side of the field. Now, what do these cards have to do with each other? Well, nothing happens if you refuse the handshake, though. Simple enough, right? But Yujo Friendship states that if Unity is in your hand, your opponent must accept the handshake. That's where problems arise. Being forced to touch your opponent physically would lead to many issues, right? You must have heard stories about people doing gross things to their hands and playing these two cards, hoping to force a draw or disqualification. Except these stories haven't been verified in the hours of research I did combing the internet. Only hearsay with no proof. In fact, both of these cards have never been played in any official capacity, not for any hygiene reasons, but the fact that they're all but useless outside of gaining some life points or defense for one turn. All that being said, what if you did play these two cards? There is a ruling about Yujo Friendship and Unity that your opponent only has to agree to a metaphorical handshake, not a physical one. Unfortunately, it seems the stories of people sneezing on their hands and offering a shake, or worse, all seem made up. However, I did find stories of people using cards at locals to try and find many handshakes, otherwise dubbed as Friendship Turbo. Originally, this video was going to be a YouTube short, but after I did some digging, I found some other interesting stories that I wanted to share. Let's keep going, shall we? Up next is the 2222 card deck. This story is rather famous among fans of Yu-Gi-Oh! For a good reason. Just look at this fucking thing. Absolute mad lads for bringing something like this to a tournament. All this was done to prove a point, though. Back then, there was no size limit for how big your deck could be, making something like this completely legal. The guy doing this himself was a tournament judge, so he wanted to prove a point as to why the game needed a size limit. He was allowed to play 2 rounds before being disqualified, citing the size of his deck, obviously. In the end, he got the rules changed, and the max size is now set to 80 cards with a minimum of 40, or even less if you know how to mess with the math. Upstart Goblin. Brings me to a little side tangent as to why cards like Pot of Greed are banned. It's all math, unfortunately. You play the one card and you get 2 out of it. If Pot of Greed is the 40th card in your deck, it cancels itself out and another, meaning the effective number of cards in your deck is now set to 38. Now imagine 3 Pots of Greed. You now have a 34 card deck and it's all been trimmed down so your important cards show up way faster. At least Upstart Goblin is a 1-for-1, and even that is limited to 1 card for this very reason. So despite the memes, we're never getting a Pot of Greed unbanned. Even its derivatives are starting to face the ban list for being too good. Next up we have Transmission Gear, a standard trap card with a very unstandard effect. One of the few cards that lets you play an entirely separate game than the one you're currently playing. Its effect states that if your monster battles an opponent's monster, you must play rock, paper, scissors with your opponent and then make whoever lost banish their monster face down. It never saw any actual tournament play outside of those who specifically took it to play as many games of rock, paper, scissors as they could. Because I want to pad out the runtime, I'm going to give an honorable mention to my favorite monster in the game, Relinquished. The first ritual monster to have an effect, and boy does it have one. This guy had an entire wall of text on his cards just to explain what it does, and this is before they added extra text boxes for pendulums. The ability to swallow up an opponent's monster and use it as an eclipse spell blew my mind as a kid, and on top of that, the swallowed monster would be destroyed instead of relinquished in battle. Nowadays, there are numerous ways to out this effect, but relinquished can get a couple of wins now and again. And lastly, we have my favorite one of these weird effects. It's Get Your Game On, a cheeky little reference to the intro of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Its effect states that it can only be played at the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG World Championship in 2007, and no other times. If you're at that very specific tournament, the attack of all your Neospacians and Elemental Heroes are doubled. Now obviously this card was never actually meant to be played, it was only a promotional card for the tournament, and it even states on the card itself that it's not legal for competitive play. But there have actually been cases where it has been played. Yu-Gi-Oh! YouTuber MBT hosted a fun tournament and called it the 2007 World Championship, just to have this effect be usable. Alright, that's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed me diving into some weird cards and stories of one of my favorite card games. I'm Emmy the Desert Hare, and I'll be seeing you next time.